Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer, thanks to some guy for this one. Nick controls an untapped Archelos, and Amy plays a Sleep-Cursed Faerie. Does it enter the battlefield tapped or untapped? How many stun counters will it have? First, let's consider the question of whether the Sleep-Cursed Faerie will enter the battlefield tapped or untapped. You can see that it has an ability that says it enters the battlefield tapped with 3 stun counters on it. This templating is characteristic of a replacement effect. Archelos also has a replacement effect that says the Sleep-Cursed Faerie will enter the battlefield untapped. Obviously, there's no way for a permanent to enter the battlefield both tapped and untapped, so we know there has to be some sort of an order in how these replacement effects are applied. That order is determined by Amy, since she controls the affected permanent. The default is for a permanent to enter the battlefield untapped, so if we apply the Sleep-Cursed Faerie's replacement effect first, then that will modify that event so that it enters tapped. After that, Archelos would apply and change the event back to the Faerie entering untapped. After a replacement effect applies to an event, it cannot apply to the same event again. So at that point, we're done applying replacement effects, and the event actually happens. So the Faerie would enter the battlefield untapped in this case. There's nothing illegal about it if Amy wanted to apply those in the other order, though. A replacement effect can still apply to an event, even if that won't cause any visible change. So Amy could apply the Archelos first and then the Sleep-Cursed Faerie, so that the Sleep-Cursed Faerie would enter the battlefield tapped. Regarding the question of how many stun counters will be on this creature, let's take a look at what stun counters actually do, and we'll see that it's another replacement effect. It applies if the Sleep-Cursed Faerie would become untapped. Now, according to the normal English definition of that word, that means the Sleep-Cursed Faerie would have to start out tapped and then transition to becoming untapped. But that's not happening here. The Sleep-Cursed Faerie is just starting out untapped. When we were applying the replacement effects from Archelos and Sleep-Cursed Faerie, that wasn't physically tapping and untapping the Faerie. It was just changing how the Faerie was going to enter the battlefield. Triggered abilities that trigger when a permanent becomes untapped don't trigger when a permanent enters the battlefield untapped. And the same logic holds here. Accordingly, Amy can choose whether her creature enters the battlefield tapped or untapped, but no matter how she chooses, it will enter the battlefield with all 3 stun counters on it. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.